Hey, how's it going YouTube? Paris21 here, and I'm back again with my long-awaited Glory Maelstrom deck profile. Now, some of you guys have already may have already seen this deck in action in some of my recent matches with Warlock and 36, and I just wanted to get some more last-minute playtesting done just to make sure the deck is really where I want it to be before I actually present it to you guys. And with with further playtesting that I've done, I decided to actually go with the Astria build, where essentially you have Astria, of course, with your starter, and by running your deck full of Astrias, you have a lot more opportunities to get her skill off, just to, of course, being able to effectively stand on your Aqua's rear guards, and she just provides so much pressure to your opponent, just because obviously your opponent really does not want to see this card go off. And it can be very distracting to some players, just because, of course, for how durable she is. So she could essentially just steal games for you. But yeah, so I've been collecting all these Astrias just so I can be able to make a deck with them, and it's been testing well. But yeah, on a serious note, of course, as much as I love Astria, let's actually get to the real deck profile. So, first off for your starter, it's not Astria, it's actually Officer Cadet Erik. As much as I really wanted to play Astria in the deck just for how durable this card is, Erik is just a lot more consistent for the deck, because as I always say with Aqua Force, all their grade 3s are useful for the deck. So there's really no such thing as having a dead grade 3 necessarily in Aqua Force. So Erik just helps with that consistency. I did actually test out Astria in the deck, but as me and my friends actually theorized, if you're able to effectively get the skill of Astria off, then you should already be in a winning position most of the time. So Erik is just tested a lot better. So simple as that. Then next up for grade 3s, of course, you have your 4 copies of Maelstrom. Now, although this is, I guess you could say, technically a Glory Maelstrom deck, I still like to use Maelstrom more, just because he's a lot more pressuring throughout the whole game, and you know, just his on-hit skill is just still very devastating for your opponent, and it's just something that just demands a block. So, you know, if I don't happen to draw my Glory Maelstroms for later to make those final pushes, I mean, still pressuring with the Maelstrom is still pretty good. And so, like as I always say with testing, you know, if you're able to get off Maelstrom skill a few times, you essentially win the game. So really, really good. Then of course, you have your 2 copies of Glory Maelstrom. 2 is perfectly enough. The thing with Glory Maelstrom, you know, he's always argued that he doesn't really fit Aqua Force. He can in some reasons, just because, you know, the idea with Aqua Force is just to, you know, pressure your opponent's hand, pressure their field with your multiple attacks. And once you pretty much dwindled their hand down and you got them down to like 5 damage, then you just drop this and just, you know, put the final hammer down to your opponent. So he's pretty good just to help close games, but more often times than not, I actually don't even use him for the main purpose of being able to finish games. A lot of times, you know, I don't mind sitting on a Maelstrom pressuring my opponent, so I just use him in the rearguard circle, because, you know, him being an 11k attacker is amazing. So that's one major reason why I like this card in the deck. So yeah, it's pretty contradictory considering this is a Glory Maelstrom deck profile, but you know, that's really the main purpose I use him for. Then next up, you have your 4 Diamantes. Now, Diamantes, of course, is still a very important enabler in the deck. Being able to hit 11k against commonly played 11k Vanguards is still pretty huge, so just very important in the deck. I did try Benedict in the deck. I currently don't own one, but Benedict can still be nice as an addition, maybe as a 9th grade 3. But I just don't own any, and it's not that important in the deck, but it can definitely be very beneficial to the deck as well. But I think for the most part, this is like a standard grade 3 lineup. So simple as that. Next up for grade 2s, I have my 2 copies of Tier Knight Lazarus. Previously, in my first version, without the before Glory Maelstrom, I did run 4 of these, just because it was very important to have a lot of standalone attackers, of course. But with the addition of Glory Maelstrom, you really have more access to better standalone attackers for your rear guard. So I was able to run less Lazarus, so that I can still make room for other card choices in the deck. So like I said, I don't really use Glory Maelstrom as consistently as a finisher. I like to use them in rear guard. So Lazarus is still pretty good as a turn 2 ride, just be that good solid 10k body pretty much. So yeah, 2's been working really good for me. Next up, you have your 4 copies of Storm Rider Basil. I still cannot pronounce this card for some reason. But yeah, just another important enabler in the deck. Although hitting for 10k is not really effective nowadays, it's just very important to make sure you can get his skill off. That's really what you're going to be focusing on for the most part. So it's still the same strategy you're thinking about from the previous version of Aqua Force. So not much has really changed. So of course I'm running 4 as compared to 3 because I'm only running 2 Diamantes, and I want to run a total of at least 6 Storm Riders in the deck. So 6 Storm Riders I think is a good number just to be able to draw them more consistently because they're very important in the deck. And then last but not least, of course, you have one of my favorite cards in the deck, 4 Tier Knight Valeria, or Miss Valier as I like to call her. But yeah, just very important card in the deck just to get some more added pressure to your opponent. And a lot of times, you know, if I'm at 3 damage or less, so obviously I can't use Maelstrom's Limit Break, I just pressure my opponent with Valeria, because obviously you have like a Storm Rider column, then you have your Vanguard column, and then I leave her as the last attack to pass triggers to, so it can pressure my opponent rear guards. So really, really good card. And of course she does make your stand triggers into like little mini bombs, of course, because you know, she just demands a block. So just amazing card in the deck. Then next up for grade 1s, you have your 4 Tier Knight Theo. AK boosters are still very important in the deck. 4 perfect guards. Simple as this. I still like the 4 perfect guards. Like I always say, I usually try to run 4 in every deck I play. And 3 copies of Dorothea. Still like 3, just because it's very important to try and draw into her consistently because she's a very, very important booster for your Vanguards. So simple as that. Then you have your 2 self-damagers. Self-damagers I think should be a staple in any deck that has a pressuring Limit Break or Ultimate Break, just because your opponent's going to always try and play around those skills and not usually give you your 4 or 5 damage, so they can maybe wait another turn to prepare themselves. So these are really good to catch your opponent off guard. And as I always say, you know, if you're able to use this to get Maelstrom to his Limit Break a turn early, when your opponent doesn't expect it, you're almost setting yourself up to win, just because getting hit by Maelstrom can be so devastating for your opponent. So really good. And the 6k boost is still okay in the deck, just because you know, as I always say, with my playstyle for the deck, I'm always going after my opponent's rear guards anyway, so usually hitting for 14 even is still fine, just because obviously you can hit Burning Horns or any 9k base rear guards. So I usually go after my opponent's rear guards and just force them to take the Maelstrom if they have to take damage. So that's pretty much the playstyle of the deck, so you know, you don't have to get amazing boosters. And then you have your 2 Penguin Soldier, Light Signal Penguin Soldier. It's actually pretty cool artwork on this one. But yeah, he's just your Luckbird clone, so you can actually use him turn 2 after you use Erik's skill. So it's nice just to give you a little bit more draw power in the deck and just help trying to fish through your deck. No pun intended, just to try and get to your key combo pieces. So he's not too bad. And like I said, the 5k boost may not be really great, but like I said, with the playstyle of this deck that I played, the way I played at least, I always go after my opponent's rear guards and then just force them to take the Maelstrom, typically. So the boosters are still fine. Like any booster is usually fine in this deck. So yeah, pretty solid lineup. And then last but not least for triggers, you have your 4 stand, 4 more stand, 4 draw, and 4 heal. Now I understand that a lot of players like to play criticals in their deck. I don't like critical triggers, just because I find critical triggers just to be dead late game, just for just with my whole playstyle with the deck. Now the critical triggers, of course, they serve more as a surprise factor and a scare factor for your opponent, because obviously, you know, typically when your opponent's at 4 damage, they're not really worried about criticals against Aqua Force. But the thing is, I don't need the crits, just because, like I say, I mainly play this deck to make sure I can get him off, and I mainly pressure my opponent with the Maelstrom. So if your opponent's sitting at 4 damage, of course, you know, they may not be worried about crits, but they're gonna still be worried about Maelstrom. So it's simple as that. I mean, they're still gonna be pressured to block him, unless they just want to lose. So I just didn't find the crits necessary. And if you're going to be trying to cross ride and just making a push with Glory Maelstrom when your opponent's at 4 damage, then you're doing something wrong. That's pretty much the gist of it. So yeah, overall the deck's been testing really well. It's been being very consistent for the strategy I want to do with the deck. So just an amazing deck still. You know, like I said, Maelstrom is definitely one of my favorite pressure cards in the game, and just an amazing card in general. So the deck hasn't really changed much. You know, with the addition of Glory Maelstrom, it just gives you more options late game, maybe to, like I said, to try and finish your opponent off for good. But overall, I still consider this a Maelstrom deck. But yeah, other than that, guys, as always, feel free to leave a comment down below or send me a personal message with any questions or concerns you may have. And as always, feel free to leave a thumbs up to this video. That's always appreciated. And thanks again for watching. So, without further ado, I may have some more matches for you guys demonstrating this deck. But yeah, other than that, guys, thank you guys so much for watching again, and I'll see you guys next time.